Maybe it is in the genes, certainly in the nurturing by generations of farmers in my family. Born and raised on the farm is central to who I am. My great-grandfather Quinney was an Irish peasant farmer in County Kilkenny. My great-grandfather Holloway on my mother's side was from a family of tenant farmers in the west of England. Each generation after the immigrations of the 1840s and 50s, and they farmed this land. My father did not encourage me to stay on the farm. In fact, he told me I would have a better life going somewhere else. Working in the fields, he would sing, "How are you going to keep them down on the farm after they've seen Paris?" After you've traveled as my father once did as a young man, you'll never want to see a rake or a plow, and who the deuce can parlez-vous a cow, from that song, World War I song, for those who had gone to the war. The song continued. In his midlife, I heard my father say that he would like to move to town and open a restaurant. I would not have stayed on the farm even without my father's advice. I wanted to be someone other than a farmer, someone I thought of the modern world, sophisticated and worldly. Most of all, I wanted to be part of the world beyond the country life I had known as a child in the late 30s and the 40s. But here I am, more than half a century later, trying to preserve the farm. I am an inheritor of the farm, yes, a weekend occupant. As an advocate of the future of family farming, I may have left the farm, but the farm never left me. These images, Kippy dolls, am I right? Were they used in advertisements? Some of these may be familiar to you. There were many in the scrapbook. I used only one or two in the book. I used about 25, and you're seeing about 50 here. I've had this need to write, at least in a notebook, all my adult life, an attempt to find out who I am, to put myself together anew each day. My need to make a connection with others near and far. Clearing out the drawers and the trunks at the farm, I uncovered writings by the generations before me. I found the childhood diaries of my mother, the letters of my father, the farm ledgers and diary of my grandfather, the notes of my great-aunt Kate, the autograph book of my Aunt Margie, the notebook of my great-grandfather written on board the immigration ship to the New World. These are the personal writings that have survived, while others likely have been lost forever. The writings that survive connect us to one another, the living and the dead. No before and no after, as T.S. Eliot wrote, but lifetimes of many, burning in every moment. Our families of writers. I was amazed to find so much writing from an early time, and the keeping of diaries and the writing of letters. These were stored in the attic. I'm skipping to get various themes that I worked with. A cautionary tale. Zen Buddhist monk Rokan said that he would tell us a secret. All things are impermanent. And he put it in quotation marks. Within quotation marks, because the words are common to us. The idea is so familiar, but we live our lives to the contrary. Our thoughts would have it otherwise, that things are permanent. But our experience is that of things always coming into existence, changing, and disappearing. All objects of thought and perception have no independent and permanent existence of their own. Buddhists call this emptiness. But even with this insight, we long for permanence, trying to preserve the past. Such seems to be our human condition. My desire to preserve the past, to hold on to the memory, prolongs the sadness of loss. I find comfort and solace when I focus instead on the present moment, on the wondrous things that are happening now. The words of the 14th century Taoist poet bring me to attention, these 4 lines. Things of the past are already long gone, and things to be distant beyond imagining. The Tao is just this moment, these words, plum blossoms fallen, gardenia just opening. Just paying attention to the reality of the interconnectedness of all things and the impermanence of this existence. Contradictory. On the one hand, I'm talking the importance of saving and preserving. On the other hand, realizing the reality that everything passes, nothing remains the same, everything is impermanent. We live with this contradiction, and that's one of the difficulties of cleaning out a house, of going to the possessions of your ancestors, your own family, and what to do. What remains materially are the artifacts, because it's the things that do remain. The material things, now devoid of their former purpose and function. We make decisions about their dispersal. The items that survive await some other use, maybe only as a reminder of the past and the transience of life and all material things. These old things may have an imaginary life. I call this the afterlife of things. We give a new life to the things we save. We may put them on the mantle. We may dine at that table or right at that kitchen table that we had grown up with in our parents' house. These things then have a new life. We who remain give new meaning to these things. We entertain the possibility that something, call it spirit, is contained in the material things, world of things. I sometimes sense a spirit moving in the rocking chair, now in my living room, that once resided beside the fireplace in the old house 100 years ago. And who does not experience the presence of a spirit when looking into the eyes of an ancestor photographed long ago? I know daily the wonder of material things. In this little room where I do much of my work, all surfaces, vertical and horizontal, are filled with things of various use and vintage. I remind myself of the photographer Joseph Sudik in his studio in Prague 60 years ago. In an interview, Sudik said that he loves the objects, the life of objects. In his photographs, he told stories about the life of inanimate things. In my own house, surrounded by the material objects of the past, I am transported to another world, transported to a spirit world of sorts. After his death in 1976, Sudik's studio was dismantled with great care. Being cognizant of and taken with the spirit of material things, I spent a year in a project photographing the farm before it was dismantled. And I call my project The Afterlife of Things. And it's in a book that I published 3 or 4 years ago, and a retrospect of my 40 years of photographing. And I went through the barn, the sheds, the house, photographing still life, images, photographs, taking photographs of, this is from the attic, to record these things before they disappeared. And as they were in their place.